In this review, I'll throw my 2 cents worth on this fascinating little story, but be warned, spoilers ahead. Donnie Dunn is the protagonist and narrator of the story. He works as a bartender in London by day and moonlights as a stand-up comedian. Interestingly, the character of Donnie Dunn is played by the man who wrote the story, Richard Gadd, and it's based on his life. Now, Richard Gadd, fortunately, is not only a good writer, but he's a good performer and he's a fine actor. Now, in the fictional narrative, Donnie Dunn is a narcissistic individual who is driven to find fame through stand-up comedy. The tragedy is that Donnie is not funny. In fact, he's so unfunny, it's difficult to watch his routine. It's pure cringe and pure embarrassment. Interestingly, the character of Donnie was quite unlikable. I mean, he leeches off people, he lives at his ex-girlfriend's mother's house, and is somewhat of a liar. I mean, he lies to colleagues, girlfriends, the police, his parents, and he lies to himself and the audience. Now, the Donnie character, Donnie Dunn, is really quite pathetic. And to be honest, I had difficulty finding any sympathy for him, but maybe I'm just a heartless bastard. Believe that. However, kudos to Richard Gadd for such a warts and all depiction of himself. So, bartender Donnie, as an act of kindness, offers a free cup of tea to a penniless and distraught customer, a middle-aged woman called Martha. Now, in this whole series, this is Donnie's only act of altruism in the entire 7 episodes, and it proves most unfortunate for Donnie. You see, Martha, the free tea recipient, is in fact an unemployed racist lawyer who has a long history of violence and stalking. Now, I have to say, the actress, Jessica Gunning, who plays the part of Martha, she is extraordinary. She gives an acting masterclass. 1 minute she's sweet, she's playful, she's vulnerable, she's then the object of pity, and then suddenly she's a terrifying monster. In fact, she's downright scary, and I would go as far as to say she's as terrifying as De Niro's Max Cady in Cape Fear. She's that convincing. Now, Martha obsesses over Donnie and she begins to stalk him. She turns up to his work. She's extremely flirtatious. She turns up at his home. She sends him constant text messages. She phones messages. And she makes online posts incessantly. She even turns up during his comedy competition tryouts to heckle the guy. At first, Donnie seems to lap up this attention, and this fuels his already narcissistic personality. Like any narcissist, affirmations of greatness is always well received. However, when Martha's stalking kicks into overdrive, Donnie gently tries to disassociate himself from her, and this is when things take a particularly ugly and violent turn. Martha assaults Keely, and she assaults Donnie. She threatens Donnie's parents, and she threatens to reveal Donnie's LGBTQ+ secrets to Donnie's parents. You see, Donnie is secretly gay, and he's been seeing a trans woman called Terry. Now, at this point, Donnie revisits some past trauma. When he was in his 20s, he was groomed by Darian, an unpleasant older man with strong links in show business. Basically, Darian drugs Donnie, then sexually assaults and rapes him. Horrible stuff indeed. To be clear, nobody deserves to be raped, and Donnie is definitely a rape victim here, but I don't quite buy Donnie's "I was groomed" naivete. He was raped for sure, but I don't really think he was groomed. I mean, he willingly put himself into a position and took copious amounts of drugs inducing blackouts. And even after becoming aware of these sexual assaults, he kept returning to Darian's place for more. Why? Well, what's lifelong PTSD and trauma when it comes to making it in the comedy world? To Donnie, comedy success is primary and nothing is more important. Hence, my sympathy for the character basically dissipates at this point, once this becomes clear in the narrative. Now, that's not to say that Donnie is not traumatized by these rapes. Donnie gives this trauma as cause for his breakup with Keely. Terry, Donnie's trans girlfriend, also has enough of his lies and gaslighting, and she's terrified by Martha, so she dumps poor old Donnie as well. Now at this point, Donnie has a meltdown on stage when he's a finalist in a comedy competition. Somewhat hard to believe considering how terrible Donnie's jokes are. Now Donnie starts off delivering some jokes which obviously misfire because they're terrible, and he completely breaks down on stage and opens himself up emotionally, telling the sad and tragic tales of his stalking, his closet homosexuality, his grooming and sexual assaults, and his ill-fated relationship with Terry. This is really, really powerful stuff. The audience, while not amused by Donnie's jokes, are completely transfixed by his victimhood tales. Long story short, Martha, after threatening to reveal Donnie's LGBTQ+ secrets to his parents, Donnie confesses his gay orientation to them, and Donnie's parents accept Donnie, support him, and it's revealed that his father too was a victim of sexual abuse. Donnie, who actually early in the series does report Martha to the police, but eventually they take his complaint seriously, and Martha is arrested and carted off to jail for 9 months. Now this is where the story, to me anyway, gets very, very interesting. We finally get to the crux and the heart of the matter, if you like. Donnie gets his wish. He finds fame, you see, because during his onstage mental breakdown, somebody in the audience, as you'd expect, filmed it and put it online, and it's gone viral, and now Donnie is a huge comedy sensation. Careful what you wish for, Donnie. Now, due to his sudden comedy fame, and possibly worried about criminal charges being laid, Darian reaches out to Donnie with an offer to work together. Horrifyingly, Donnie agrees to this. This is genuinely quite shocking. After agreeing to work with Darian again, Donnie goes to a bar by himself, sits down and listens to a phone message left by Martha. Now this message is an emotional story about how when she was young, she would shield herself from her pitiful home life with a stuffed toy, a baby reindeer, hence the name of the TV series, Baby Reindeer. All explained. Now, this moves Donnie to tears. Now, coming full circle, the kindly barman sees Donnie crying and asks what he would like to drink. Unfortunately, Donnie's left his wallet at home. So the story comes full circle when the barman offers Donnie a drink on the house. So it ends as it began. Such irony. Okay, this is compelling and binge-worthy. It's well written, well produced, and well acted. I give it 4 stars out of a possible 5. It's compelling because it's so difficult to predict what's going to happen next. And also, one cannot entirely trust the protagonist narrator who gaslights the audience on multiple occasions. This actually is a great plot device and is expertly done by Richard Gadd. Richard, what you lack in comedy talent, you more than make up for as a storyteller. The character of Donnie is so complex. On the one hand, he's a narcissist, a fantasist, and he's delusional. On the other hand, he's a victim of horrific crimes. Now, Donnie lies to everyone, particularly to himself. During the meltdown on stage, he claims to the audience the only thing he loves more than Terry, his trans girlfriend, was the act of hating himself. Now, clearly, Donnie is lying. The guy is totally in love with himself. He has narcissistic personality disorder. He believes he's entitled to fame and mass adoration, and nothing will stand in his way to achieving this. He tells himself this lie about Terry because it makes himself appear as a sympathetic character rather than someone who will allow himself to be victimized and traumatized in the hope of fulfilling comedic success. On one level, this is a compelling, thrilling psychodrama about a man being stalked who's dealing with past demons. But even this isn't particularly clear-cut because the lines between stalker and stalked are blurred. I mean, how much of this stalking did Donnie bring on himself? Perhaps if he had discouraged Martha earlier, none of this would have happened. Moreover, he's traumatized by past sexual abuse. But even after all this abuse, he reunites with his rapist and agrees to work with him again. It seems as though he seeks to repeat this cycle of sexual abuse in return for career guidance. So what's that all about? Does Donnie suffer from Stockholm Syndrome? Is he returning to his rapist for more abuse? Or is his narcissism and hunger for comedy fame so great he's happy to subject himself to more possible sexual assault? If this is the case, and I suspect it is, it's really difficult to have any sympathy at all for the character of Donnie. In my opinion, and I'm sure many will disagree on this point, this show is about a man's overwhelming narcissistic obsession to be famous in the fiercely competitive world of stand-up comedy. In many ways, it's very similar to Scorsese's King of Comedy, where De Niro plays the part of a man called Rupert Pupkin, who goes to such lengths to become a famous comedian. In The King of Comedy, Rupert Pupkin kidnaps a famous comedian, played by Jerry Lewis, just to appear on his TV show. Baby Reindeer is a powerful and dark satire on the contemporary state of comedy. The stalking and sexual abuse are compelling backstories, but to me the main theme is about the lengths and ways a comedian, devoid of any comedic talent, can achieve comedy success, and what he's prepared to put up with in order to achieve this goal. So in a nutshell, it's a social commentary on how stand-up comedians, lacking in comedic talent, can spin victimhood narratives as a substitute for their comedic inadequacy. Does this sound familiar? Thank you for listening. This has been a Geese with a Spoon production.